Welcome to my channel. My name is Allison and I make cleaning and lifestyle videos every week. Make sure you subscribe down below so you don't miss any videos. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to be doing a cooking video, which I don't normally do, but I know a lot of you are stuck in your houses right now and you might be on quarantine or on a lockdown, and you might be trying to figure out what you need to be cooking or making for your family so that the food that you have lasts, so you don't have to keep going to the store and exposing yourself all the time to the coronavirus. So I thought I'd share one of my recipes with you that I cook on a pretty regular basis. This is a soup recipe. Soups are really great because you can stretch them a lot by adding more liquid. If you just have a few items, you can just add those and add some water, and it will last you a long time depending on how much liquid you use. This also is a soup that you can use with a variety of different ingredients depending on what you have around your house. It's kind of a throw in whatever you have kind of a recipe, and you can just add what you have and eat it for several days. I'm making this just for myself and it usually lasts me 3 to 4 days depending on how often I eat it. I'm going to be using an Instant Pot, but I will try to give you an idea of how long to cook things if you do not have an Instant Pot. The one that I have is pretty small, so I'm actually making a pretty small portion of this. But if you have a big family, if you have a big Instant Pot or a big pot even, you can make a really big portion of this and have it last for your family for several days or maybe a week depending on your family size. So I hope this recipe is helpful for you. Maybe if you've never made a soup before, this will give you an idea of what to do and how to make it. This is something I've kind of just developed on my own over time by trial and error, and I like how it tastes, so hopefully you'll like it too. And I'll kind of just show you what my ingredients are. I really don't measure a whole lot. I kind of just toss everything in, but I'll try to give you an idea too of how much of everything I'm using. This is kind of a vegetable soup with rice and black beans in it. So it's kind of a mixture of different things. I don't know if I'd call it a vegetable soup or a rice soup, black bean and rice soup, but I do like how it tastes. So I'm going to just kind of show you what I've got over here in my supplies. So I've got a few things I'm going to be throwing in. Like I said, there are black beans in this soup. I usually just use canned black beans. If you have the dried kind, you can cook them and then put them in this as well. It's just a little more work. For me, it's easier to buy the kind that are pre-cooked and just dump them in. I do only use about half a can of black beans when I cook this because I just don't like a ton of beans in it, but that's a personal preference. If you're trying to get more protein, beans are really good for protein, so you might want to use a whole can, but for me personally, I just use about half of a can of the black beans. I also use canned tomatoes. I normally use diced tomatoes, but I didn't have any diced ones on my shelf. What I have is stewed, so I'm going to be using the stewed instead, which will work fine. Whatever kind of tomato you have, I usually just use a canned tomato, or you could use fresh tomato if you happen to have fresh tomato at your house as well. I'm also going to be throwing in some carrots. I actually usually use fresh carrots in this. I usually will take a bag of baby carrots and toss them in, but I didn't have any baby carrots at home today, so I'm going to be using canned carrots. I'm also going to grab a can of corn because I like corn in this. I just forgot to grab it, so a can of carrots and a can of corn. Okay, so I've got a can of corn and a can of carrots, and I'm going to be using these as well. It is kind of a small Instant Pot, so I might use half a can of each of these and just eat the other half later on. I'm also going to be adding some onion. I had some fresh onion, so I'm just going to cut up a few onion and add it in for some flavor. So if you happen to have fresh onion, whatever type of onion you have would work in this. I happen to have red onion. It'd probably work a little better with a white onion, but this is just what I have at my house. So I'm going to be tossing in some onion with this. And the other main thing you're going to need is rice. Now for the Instant Pot, this is what I use. I like this rice. It's the Lundberg Wild Blend rice. It's got a lot of different types of rice. The thing with this is it takes a long time to cook this rice, so I can put everything in together and it'll be cooked at the same time if I cook it in my Instant Pot for 28 minutes. If you're using an instant rice, you're going to want to cook your rice separately because it's going to cook a lot faster and it's going to get soft and mushy. So pretty much anything other than these sort of long grain rice that take longer to cook, I'd recommend cooking separately and then adding to the soup once the soup is cooked all the way. So we're going to be adding this. And for my soup, I'm also going to be adding some water. I usually add about 2 cups of water for this, but it depends on how much soup you're trying to make and how thin you want your ingredients and things. For mine, I'm using about 2 cups of water. Now, seasoning, you can add pretty much anything you have in the house that you think is going to taste good with it. I usually use salt and pepper, and then I've got I'm going to do oregano and dill weed in this. But I've used a lot of different things, and it just sort of depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I'm also going to be adding a bay leaf. This makes a huge difference on how this tastes. It gives it a really hearty, warm taste if you put a bay leaf in it, I found. So I really recommend a bay leaf if you happen to have them in your house. And if not, it's okay. It'll still be a good tasting soup at the end of the day if you don't have it, but I really think it takes the soup to another level. I'm going to be using Himalayan pink salt in this. but you can use just regular table salt. I was watching sort of a prepping video, and they said there's a lot of nutrients in Himalayan pink salt that is not in regular salt, so they recommended this. So I'm going to try it out in the soup and see how it goes. I have tried this on other things and it's really good, so I'm going to hope this gives it a little extra kick of flavor as well. And I'm going to just go ahead and show you how and what I'm adding. Got my empty container here to add things in. I do like to drain the beans. There's a little bit of a fluid that comes in canned beans, so I drain as much of that off as I can and just put mostly beans into the soup. I'll leave a little fluid, but not a whole lot, just because I don't like a lot of that beany liquid. But if you're really trying to stretch your ingredients, you might want to add the whole liquid and everything in it with it as well, depending on how well your supply is holding up. But like I said, I'm just going to put in about half a can of beans. Now when it comes to the tomato, I'm actually going to put the entire can, including the liquid, in. You want as much of that liquid in to give you that tomatoey flavor to the soup. So I'm just going to dump everything into my Instant Pot. And you can be adding all this stuff to a big pot on the stove as well if you don't have the Instant Pot, so just keep that in mind. Just pretend you're putting it into a big saucepan. And I am going to drain the liquid off of the corn. And you can also be using frozen vegetables for this. Frozen vegetables actually work a little bit better, but I had fewer of these and more canned stuff, so I thought I'd show you with the canned ingredients what I'm using. But, you know, drain off your liquid, or, you know, if you have frozen, just pour the frozen right into the thing without worrying about the liquid so much. And you can put a whole can, but I'm going to put probably half a can of corn and half a can of carrots in my soup, just because I have a limited amount of space and I want to make sure that I can fit everything in here that I want to fit in. See, it's starting to look really good. There's all this bright color, and the beans, and the tomato, and the corn. It's starting to look pretty delicious. I'm also draining off the liquid from the carrots. I don't want any extra carrot liquid in there. Now I'm going to put in half a can of carrots. So I'm going to cut up just a little of my onion into small pieces and toss it in as well. And if you have fresh garlic, that goes really well in this as well. I just don't have any fresh garlic. I might add some garlic salt, but that just depends on how motivated I'm feeling. And if you like peas, frozen peas can go really well in this as well. I just don't like peas personally, but if you're a pea fan, I'd recommend adding peas also into the soup. And I'm really just dicing the onion into little pieces. You don't want the onion to overpower the soup, so here's what we're adding. Just a little tiny bit for me. And then I'm going to add this rice, and I just kind of pour in a little bit. Actually, I think I'm going to add the water first so I can see how much room I have to add rice. And like I said, I'm adding about 2 cups of water. The Instant Pot, you don't want to go over the max line, so I will add it just a little bit under the line because I'm going to be adding the rice. And I'm just going to go ahead and add in some rice, and I just kind of pour it in. I don't measure. It's a 16-ounce bag, so I'm adding about 8 ounces of rice in there. And then I'm going to seal it up, and I'm going to cook it on pressure cook for 28 minutes. And if you don't have an Instant Pot, I'd recommend doing it for about 45 minutes, or at least till everything looks cooked. Just cook it on a slow heat for that amount of time. But I do it for 28, and when it comes out, it's going to be really delicious. Oh, I've got to add the seasoning also. So I'm going to go ahead and add some salt. I'm going to go ahead and add in my oregano and my dill weed. And I don't put a lot, I just sprinkle a little bit on top. Once everything's in there, I just give it a big stir. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add a few more. There's a little bit more room, so I'm going to add a little bit more stuff in there. A little more black beans. And just a little more corn. Kind of show you what it looks like here. I'm going to go ahead and add my bay leaf. I usually just add 1 bay leaf on top of the whole thing. And I like to just set it on top so I can find it when it's done and pick it off. So I'm not eating. You don't actually eat the bay leaves. You pick it off when it's done cooking. I'm just going to put that on top. Just put on my lid. Makes its nice little noise. Make sure it's on your pressure cook thing is up. And I'm going to hit pressure cook, and I'm going to put it on 28 minutes. There's also a soup button you can use if you would rather use that. And then I'm just going to let it cook it takes a little longer than 28 minutes because it has to come up to pressure, but it'll take me 30 to 40 minutes to get this cooked. You can hear it beeping. Let me know it's all in there. And that's it. And I'll show you the soup when it's finished and let you know what it looks like. It's a very delicious soup. If you did decide to make this, I hope you enjoy it. I really like it. It's inexpensive to make and it can feed a lot of people very quickly. If you want to make it on the stove, just put it in a big pot and cook it for about 40-45 minutes just till everything looks like it's cooked all the way through. And with the rice, make sure you're using the long grain rice, or if you don't have any of this, you can just cook regular rice on the stove and add it in once everything else is cooked together. So, here's my recipe. And let me know if you'd like more recipe videos, because I can add more if this is something people enjoy. I don't normally do them, but I thought it might be helpful right now with everybody inside. Okay, so the soup has been cooking for about 28 minutes or so, a little bit longer with the steam coming up to pressure. I wanted to show you what it looks like. You can see here, it looks really good. I'd have to stir it up to see what's in there, but there's some tomatoes and black beans and the rice and everything. It's really almost like a stew. If you were wanting more of like a soup texture, which would last longer, you could obviously put a lot more water into this, but this is really hearty and thick. It'll just really last me a long time. I can also dilute it with water if I want to stretch it out a little bit more, but I like it a little bit more on the thick side. So this is what it looks like. And I'll just have to dig out the bay leaf. I don't know where it's at, but I'll look for it and pull that out. And I'll serve it. And I really like to put a little bit of cheese on this. Sometimes I'll sprinkle some like mozzarella cheese on top or Parmesan, and it's really delicious with the cheese. And you can eat it with crackers or just by itself. And it'll be a really good meal for you and your family. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for coming by. Keep safe, and I hope you all have a beautiful day today.